Hello, BASD Industrial Arts. This is Mr. Goff. What I'm going to do in this video is show you guys how to make a keychain from start to finish. So I'm going to take all those skills in the videos above, and I'm just going to go through all of them kind of in a fluid project, showing you how you would start your project, how you would change your dimensions, use the align tool, all that good stuff to create your keychain or any other design for that matter in TinkerCad. So first thing that we're going to do with any new project is we're going to create a new design. So I click create new design. Just like in our videos and our startup lessons, I'm going to show you guys how to change your snap grid. I'm going to show you how to change the units of measurement from millimeters to inches. First thing that I do is I look in the upper left-hand corner and I'm going to change the name of the file, Mr. Goff's Keychain. Okay, now that I changed the name of the file, I'm going to come down to the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to change or edit my grid from millimeters. I'm going to change that over to inches, leaving this at the default width and length. I'm going to update that. Snap grid, again, I want to make it a 1/16 of an inch. That way, as I'm moving an object around my screen, I'm moving it in a much smaller increment, and that way it is much more accurate than moving it in 1/8 of an inch. So for my keychain, first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to select box. I drag that onto my screen. Once I have that out here, personally, I like to get my dimensions set. So you're going to be looking at the specifications given to you for your assignment. I am not going to use those exact specifications, but I'm going to use something similar. So I want my box to be about 1/2 of an inch tall. So fractions to decimals, I'm going to use 0.5, enter, and that shrinks it down to 1/2 inch tall. I want my box. Okay, notice arrow to arrow going across the face or the front. I'm going to click on the corner. I'm going to make that 3 inches long. And right now my box is off the side of my screen. Because I have it selected, I just use my arrow keys to move my item back where I want it to be. Now, I want this to be a little bit wider than an inch. I'm going to go to 1.5 inches. Again, I click on the dimension cube in the corner. I then select what dimension I want to change and I type in the measurement that I want. So 1.5, I now have a good base for a keychain. It's 3 inches long, it's 1.5 inches wide, and it is a 1/2 inch thick. Next part of the keychain that I would like to add is I want to add my name. So I'm going to come over here to my basic shapes and scroll down. As I scroll down, I see text. I select text and I take that and drag it onto my workspace. Once my text is drug onto the workspace, I come over here to where I can actually see where it says, or where it says text. The word text is just a default. You can change that to whatever you want. So I change that to Mr. G. Fonts, guys, unfortunately, not many fonts to choose from. Okay, choose the font that you like the best. You don't have to change it at all if you don't want to. At this point, I'm going to move my text over the top of my box. Okay, as you can see, my text is way too large, so you can change your dimensions. Before I showed you how to click and type in numbers to change your dimensions. Here, if you want to use your trackpad, you just hold Control and you move from the corner and it will change that proportionately. Now, you can use your arrow keys to move this where you would like it to go. Are you going to get it perfectly centered? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can get it close enough, but I personally like to use the align tool. That way I know it's right in the center of where it needs to be. So as you can see, my name or the text that I've added is very tiny. So I'm going to lift, lift that text up into the air. Now that I lifted it, you can see that it's sticking out of the top of my keychain. Okay. Now, to use the align tool, remember you need to select both items. So I select my rectangle by clicking, I hold shift, and I can select my text. Both are outlined in blue. Drop down menu shows you two shapes. Okay. And at this point, guys, I'm going to click on my align tool, going to align it with the middle here, and I'm going to align it the middle here. That's putting my name right into the center of my keychain. Okay, as you guys can see, I can even zoom in, make sure that this is touching the top, that there's no gap. If there was a gap and we were to print this, guys, you're not going to see that. So now that I have that where I want it to go, I don't want it to move. So I select both. Second way of selecting, clicking and dragging a box around all the items. Again, you can see two shapes. I'm now going to group those items together. By grouping them together, I don't have to worry about my text moving anywhere. It's always going to be in the center of that block. If I were to make a mistake, say I click this corner by accident and I change the size, I can always go up to my undo button and change my size right back. So we've chosen a shape. We've raised the shape up. We've changed the size of the shape, okay? We've used the align tool. We've grouped our items together. The last part of this, guys, is really just creating a hole. So nice and simple. I come right here to my basic shapes. I select the cylinder. I drag it onto my workspace. You can see that my cylinder is much larger than my keychain, so I'm going to change the dimensions and drag that where I want it to go. Before I group these two items together, I rotate, I make sure that this is sticking through the bottom. That looks flush. By flush, I mean it's even with the bottom of my block. So what I'm going to do, select that cylinder. I'm just going to choose that cone, drag it so it's sticking through both sides. That way I know I get a clean hole through my project. I'm now going to select all items. Remember, since we grouped our text and our block, that's one item now. See my shapes too, cylinder and text. At this point, guys, all I'm going to do is group them together. Make this entire project one item. I have the hole in the corner, and I have my text centered on my keychain. Hopefully, this is a little bit more of a fluid way for you guys to understand the steps that we've gone through, have a basic understanding of them, and if you have any questions while you're making your own, feel free to everybody stay safe and healthy. Keep working hard. See you soon.